Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled People stories. In this video, an idiotic neighbor Karen built a pool on my private land without permission. She claims that I must give her the property since she is already using the pool. Let's dive right into the video. The first one starts like this. A couple of years ago, I inherited a lovely patch of land on the outskirts of my town after my grandfather had passed away. He never did much with the land, having plans to build on it and simply never getting around to it. So it was a blank slate for me to work with and I was super excited. I did not want to do anything drastic, it has a lot of sentimental value to my family and I was hoping that whatever I ended up building would be a lovely meeting place for us all, where we could reminisce on my grandfather's life and remember him in good faith. So I planned to build a small cottage with the main parts of the land being gardens and possibly a small farm. The neighboring properties have never been a problem. They are certainly quite wealthy given the houses they built on their own plots, and even a small plot of land costs a bomb these days in the UK, but keep to themselves and don't cause a fuss over anything. That was until the neighbor to the left moved out and a Karen moved in. I had only started a small part of the building process when she moved in, deciding I would start with the cottage first. It was a slow process as I could not afford to get it done all at once, so there were months where I would not see my property, so imagine my surprise when a few months into the build I spotted a pool taking up around half of my property, coming from my neighbor's land. Our lands are separated by a small fence, not really for privacy, but more just to show where the borders are. She had basically removed the fence to build her pool and even had the gal to rebuild it around the edges of said pool, effectively stealing a part of my land. I was obviously angry as it didn't look accidental to me, and I had a feeling the owner knew what they were doing, so I went over to her house and intended to confront her. I calmed down before she opened the door and calmly stated, "Hello, I take it you're the new neighbor, right? This is a little awkward, but it seems like you've built a pool on my land." "Okay. And where have you been for the past few months? Did you just wait for me to finish and then decide you had an issue with it?" The woman replied with an eye roll. Rude way to start off, to be honest. "Well, it doesn't matter where it was, you cannot just build on someone else's property. That's illegal." "Yeah, whatever. How much?" she asked as she dug out her checkbook. "What?" I blanked. "So how much do you want for that part of your land?" she asked, staring at me as if I was an idiot. "You obviously cannot afford to build anything decent on it, so just how much?" "You're joking, right? I'm not selling you a part of my land." "Why the hell not?" She stamped her foot. "Because I don't want to lose some of my land and you cannot just demand I sell you a part of it." I could not help but laugh at her ludicrous suggestion. She scoffed, "So what? You would rather I remove the pool?" I nodded slowly. "Well, yes." "I'm not doing that. No way." "I'm sorry, but you don't really have a choice in the matter here. That's my land and you don't have the right to claim a part of it." "Well, it would be so much easier to just pay you for that part of the land because I am already using it and you could really use the money, right?" She scoffed again and looked me up and down. Just before I could utter a reply, she slammed her door in my face while saying, "Come back when you agree." I left in a fit of rage at the audacity of her and how rude she had been when I felt I hadn't been too nasty, even considering that I was the one whose property rights had been violated. I knew it would be a little pricey, but I decided to seek legal advice as I had a big feeling I would not be able to just settle this matter between her and myself. So the next day I headed to a local lawyer and explained the situation, who balked and informed me that there was no way she had any leg to stand on in this situation and that what she was doing was illegal encroachment. So armed with that bit of information, I headed back to the property and went straight to her house, where of course she was busy having a pool party just to add to my irritation. "Remove the pool or I'm going to get the police involved," I stated the moment she opened the door. She simply laughed in my face to the point of tears. "And what are they gonna do? I doubt you even have the deeds to your property." She once again slammed the door in my face. I heard her laughing on the other side as she retold the story to her guests. Hearing their chorus of laughter only worsened my rage. The next day I was being flooded with messages on Facebook of people in the neighborhood calling me greedy and unreasonable. Upon further investigation, Karen had been posting all sorts of defaming information about me online, claiming that I was upset that she had built a pool right up to the edge of the fence, leaving out the part where she moved the fence a good 20 meters into my land. I felt like I was back in high school or something, dealing with an unreasonable bully as rumors spread about me. It only made the anger I was feeling worse, and there was no way I was about to let her get away with anything. I did not reply to anything on Facebook, knowing that my replies would be out of anger and would quite possibly make things even worse. My only course of action was to take legal action, so I headed back to the same lawyer I spoke to before and explained that I had told her I would take legal action, that she ignored my warning and then even started defaming me on the internet. The lawyer informed me that my first step would be to make a complaint with my local council, as things often moved much quicker if you go to them first before the bigger counts, as then they don't feel like you have gone over their heads, was how he put it. So anyway, that's what I did, and within a few days the council had done an investigation and found that Karen did not have the necessary permits to build this pool and that it did, in fact, encroach onto my property. They sent her an enforcement notice telling her that she had 2 weeks to begin the removal of the pool, or else the police and further legal actions would be taken place. And well, 2 weeks rolled by and there was no sign of her taking down the pool, so legal action was taken. "Please present your evidence," the judge asked, motioned me to hand my deeds and images of Karen's pool over. I do so as Karen rolled her eyes. "This would be all over if he had just accepted my money. I'm not trying to scam him or anything." Nobody suggested you were trying to scam him, but I guess that's a good way to put it, considering you didn't ask to buy the land before building on it to corner him into selling. That sounds very much like a scam to me, the judge drawled without even looking up from my papers. "No, absolutely not. That's ridiculous." "Do you even know who I am?" Karen laughed. "I had a reputation to uphold and wouldn't taint it with such nonsense." The judge sighed, shaking her head as she kept looking at the images. "And what evidence do you have in your favor?" "Well, I don't have any evidence, but you can hardly say that I'm at fault here." "So you agree that you built on his land without permission and have refused to remove the build even when served an enforcement notice?" the judge asked. "Well, I don't know about that. When you phrase it like that..." "Yes or no?" the judge snapped. Karen went slightly red and whispered, "Yes." It was then decided that the judge ruled in my favor and that Karen would have a court order to remove the pool. Of course, she kicked up a bit of a fuss over it, which resulted in the judge deciding she would also be ordered to pay my legal fees, much to my satisfaction. She complied with the court orders and has not bothered me since, so no further action was taken. I think part of her current silence is linked to her attempting to repair her now dented reputation. On a positive note though, I've now used the restored land to build my little cottage and gardens, and my family love coming over to visit. Although it took a while to get to this place, I'm happy with how far I've come and that my drama with Karen is over. I do know that she has now learned her lesson that her supposed reputation and money don't give her any more rights than the rest of us. And the next one is a fantastic wedding drama story. It starts like this. My fiancé and I have been together just under 6 years, dated for 3, engaged for 2.5. And by the way, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much. Anyway, it's a great relationship relatively. Our friends and family all get along well with the other person, no issues at all, except for one of my partner's best friends. Said best friend has never liked me and seemingly had it out for me the entire time. She basically ignores my existence, refuses to speak or be cordial to me, but as soon as she sees my partner, she is yelling and hugging him, talking about, "Hey best friend," while ignoring me, even though I'm right next to him. I told him about it and how it made me feel, and at first it went unaddressed 2 or 3 more times because he needed proof to make sure there was an issue. After said proof was present, he spoke to her about it and she got a little better, but only around groups of people and like twice. She indicated that she doesn't have a problem with me, so he felt that I'm the only one having an issue here and I need to just approach her and talk it out. I told him I'm not doing that because she is not my friend and he needs to do so. A couple weeks ago, we attended a mutual friend's party. I attempted to make eye contact and say hello 2 to 3 times, but she avoided me and refused to look at me the whole time. My fiancé noticed because it was so blatant. I don't want her respect, I don't need her to like me, don't honestly want her around at all, I just want her to have basic human decency. This situation has caused me to rethink my relationship and ending it because I feel my fiancé is in the wrong for engaging with her after seeing how she completely disregards me. I think now, but mostly after marriage, we are supposed to be a unit and I wouldn't allow this behavior from a friend. I've been feeling like an a-hole because we spent the better half of a nice drunken evening arguing about this, and I told him that she cannot come to our wedding, as I won't have someone who cannot seem to stand me near this. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé that she cannot come to our wedding? And yeah, ripe stars, let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And yeah guys, I would say that OP is definitely not the a-hole here. There's definitely something fishy about this situation, and I probably also would not want that person to come to the wedding as well. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments. A person on Reddit said, not the a-hole, she is in love with your man. Upset that he's with you and pretending like you don't exist makes her feel better. She won't say or do anything to make him upset. She is saying that she has no problem with you because the problem is not with you technically, it's with him. She was hoping for her romantic movie moment when the male BSF finally realizes and falls for his female BSF. Comment number 2, not the a-hole for not allowing the BFF to come to the wedding, but you're the a-hole for still wanting to marry the guy. Your man does not respect you, or he would have put his foot down with the BFF after he saw the way she continued to disrespect you after he said something to her. Do you honestly think just by not inviting her to the wedding, will it change anything? She's still going to be a pain in the butt after you get married, and then there will be more hoops to go through when you end up divorcing because of her. And now guys, we have an update to the story, let's see how it goes. So the comments on my original post opened my eyes and made me realize that despite this being the healthiest relationship I've been in, it doesn't mean it's actually healthy. We've had a couple conversations surrounding this issue, which mostly consisted of me saying it bothered me and him saying that I was the only one who cared. A couple things helped me realize my breaking point. I asked him if he would be okay with our daughter's future partner treating them like this, to which he got flustered, shut down, and said that he didn't want to talk about it. I left it alone at that point. He said he didn't want to end his friendship or do anything to jeopardize it because, what if we break up? This made me realize that he would not protect me as his wife since he didn't as his girlfriend. The final straw was when I expressed how much it bothered me that he wanted me to blow this off since we, as in me and the best friend, only see each other 4 to 6 times a year, and he said, directly quoted because this is burned into my brain, I know the way she treats you is garbage, but you're allowing one person to dictate our relationship. It could be worse. She could be more active. There are worse ways to meddle, people text and lie, and all that to break relationships up. The first line broke my heart and told me all I needed to know. I have to truck through a couple more months of pre-planned and paid-for social engagements, but I closed the curtain on any chance of healing this relationship the moment those words left his mouth. Thank you everyone for the advice, common sense, knocking me upside my head, and similar related experiences and outcomes. I'm gonna go to therapy and redefine what a healthy, balanced and communicative relationship actually is. Edit, by the way, the pre-planned events are not the wedding/engagement related. We share a home and need to divide assets, pets, a custody schedule. Additionally, we have vacations planned with a mutually shared friend group. BF not part of that group. I appreciate the concerns, but I need to plan things out a little more. There'll be no second chance to those that keep saying they're effing probably. By the way, when I first brought this up, he became stressed and kept emphasizing how I thought that he was screwing his best friend and didn't address the issue that was brought up. Honestly, I don't care to confirm or no. Edit number 2, we are not getting married, continuing our relationship. For those thinking I'm using the pre-planned events to justify holding out good, absolutely not. Our relationship was dead the moment he admitted that she treated me like garbage and basically just shrugged it off. As a note, I never asked him to cut anyone off out of his life, I simply asked for basic greetings and acknowledgement during the rare encounters with his BFF. This has not happened aside from a couple of begrudging times. Final edit to the story, I tried asking him the "what would you tell your daughter to do?" question. He answered that if she loved her partner, she should not care about outside people. Additionally, he said he was tired of talking about it, he feels that he's done all he can and he doesn't want us, or me, to bring her up because he is tired of talking about it. I told him our relationship is done in September when our lease is up, etc., apologized for bringing it up and asked if he wanted to be alone for the evening. Thank you everyone for helping me realize I was not asking for too much. I really thought he was the one for me, but I was not thinking straight. I'm tired and I want better for myself. I'm okay with being alone and I appreciate you all. Have a good night. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. The thing about family is that they can be a little self-entitled sometimes, feeling that they can help themselves to your stuff when you have worked your butt off just because you share the same blood, grew up together and all that jazz. These same self-entitled individuals will also believe that because you are family, they don't have to lift a finger to help you, but still get to help themselves to your stuff, like in the case with my grandpa. So my grandpa had been ill for a long time after having had a stroke and couldn't take care of himself. He was moved to a warden-controlled nursing home so that there could be someone to help him 24 hours a day. I did not leave him there though, like the rest of the family. I would go around as often as I could, even if it is just for 20 minutes, to make sure that he was taken care of, had everything he needed and the like. It was not until several months later that I found out that none of our other family had gone around to check up on him. Not either one of my 2 uncles or my auntie or my mom, his daughter, neither one of my elder sisters or younger one. Yes, I'm the only boy of 3 children. When I found this out, I was fuming. I phoned up all my sisters immediately and asked them to explain themselves, and they tell me, "Why would we take time out of our day? You are doing it." The cheek of it. My uncles I could understand. One lived in Scotland and the other one was a long-distance lorry driver who spent most of his time in Europe. My auntie basically said that he was in a warden-controlled house, he should be fine, and my mom could not come up with an excuse, so just said that she was too busy. I've never been so ashamed of my family in all my life. There I was, thinking that we would watch out for each other in dire times, and now I worry about when I get old and senile. And well, after a few years of this and basically giving up on my family, my grandpa had a fatal stroke and then passed away. Honestly, it was the saddest moment in my life. I was in pieces for months and I'm still not fully over it all these years later. Now we come to the meat of the situation though. So my grandpa and grandma used to live in an old farmhouse. It used to be a wheat farm and the house used to be a water mill. It was such a cool house. I loved going there to visit because the stream went right under the house where it would turn the wheel. It had been gutted and converted, but the wheel was still under the house. In the summer, me and my sisters would splash in the stream and kind of swim half crawl under the house to turn the wheel. My grandpa used to get so mad at us, telling us that it wasn't safe and all, but we were kids and there was no danger that could harm us. The house had become known as the Old Mill and had a plaque on the front gate. My grandpa moved into it when he and my grandma were young and raised my auntie, mother and uncles there. It came with all the acres of old farmland as well. The number of times we would go around to visit, find my grandpa out on the right on a mower, mowing the fields. I loved riding on his lap as he went. Though the fields no longer given over to wheat farming, it was still used quite regularly for traveling circus, fetes and fairs. There was even this one weekend when we went around that we saw LARPers using the fields. If you don't know what that means, you should look it up. Metal detectorists used to love scanning those fields too. One even found an old World War II bomb. So back to the story at hand. Though it was no longer a real farm, the old mill still brought in a lot of money with renting out the fields, and my uncles were very keen to get their grubby mittens on it, but they were not the only ones. So my eldest sister wanted the farm for herself as she was about to have her second baby and wanted a bigger place for her family. My auntie wanted the house because she was the eldest and deserved the inheritance more. My mom and dad wanted the farm because they were my grandpa's direct descendants and next in line. The thing is, none of them helped my grandpa when he was struggling. I was the only one that lifted a finger to ensure his last years were as comfortable as they could be. I was not even the one that lived the closest, but I would always get in my car, drive for half an hour to the retirement facility and spend time out of my day looking after my family. The outrage in the solicitor's office when the solicitor read my grandpa's will was something to remember, that's for sure. My oldest uncle was taking pictures of the will to show to his solicitor. I'm pretty sure he doesn't actually have one and just wanted to look like he knew what he was talking about. My mom was in tears and everyone else was calling out that it is not fair and why does he, me, get the farm? He's not even the eldest or in direct line of succession. I think someone has been watching Game of Thrones too much. Anyway, it was all above board, perfectly legal. While they all wallowed in their greedy self-pity, I was rewarded for actually caring for my family. Not that I only did it for the farm, to be honest. I don't really need that level of responsibility in my already busy life. Had they been a little more reasonable, a little nicer, I might have at least let my sister live there, and I would have been more than happy to let my uncles handle the business side of things. I already had a house and not enough time to be organizing the fields. After the hearing, my life got very complicated. It felt like almost every other day that my uncles, auntie or my sister would come knocking at my door and start pleading their case, saying that they should have the house. When I refused, the polite house calls became threatening phone calls and less than polite text messages. I honestly never thought my family would resort to such disgusting behavior, especially towards another member of the family. Who would have thought that I descended from a long line of bloody Karens? My mother had remained distant and quiet so far. I thought she was grieving her father's passing, and it might have been partly true, but she had a scheme cooking up, and about 6 or so months after the reading of the will, I get an official-looking letter telling me that I'm to appear in court as my mother wished to contest the will and sue me for damages. The following weeks were tense and I had no idea what to do. This farm had caused so much trouble and tore a rift between family members. I did not even want it anymore, but if the letter was anything to go by, the trouble had only just started. I got my own lawyer and we prepared over the coming weeks for what my mother might bring against me, and to be honest, I did not even want the farm anymore, but I'll be damned if I was gonna let any of my family have it, not after the way they had behaved. The court date is looming close and my nerves were so frayed, I thought I was gonna snap any minute. My uncles were still harassing me, my sister was still trying to make a case for why she deserved the farm and so on. Then one day, about a week before my mom was going to sue me, I get a call from my lawyer. Mr. OP, not my real name of course, I have some good news. Your mom produced your grandfather's will as evidence and… I cut him off before he has a chance to finish what he was gonna say. But the will says I inherit the farm. Yes, I know, but the will… I cut him off again. So what does she think she's gonna do with it if it says I inherited the farm? Please, Mr. OP, let me finish. I let him finish this time. The will is a forgery. I had my guys look at it. Your mom has dropped the case and… I cut him off for a third time. A forgery? What the actual… We cannot let her get away with this. That's also what I wanted to talk to you about. We can countersue and charge her for forging a will. It's a serious crime. Cogs started whirring in my head and I had a thought. Can I sue the rest of my family too? For harassment or something? There's a second of silence. Yes. What followed was the most entertaining circus of law practice I've ever seen. My mother ended up getting arrested and charged for forging a will, 10 years in prison and a hefty fine. My uncles, auntie and sister got issued a cease and desist order and a restraining order, so they had to stop harassing me about the farm and could not come within 500 feet of it. I ended up selling the property on to build a secondary school under the proviso that it be named after my grandpa. The old mill is still there down the bottom of the sports field, and in a couple of years' time, my own daughter will be going there herself. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.